Chael, I don't doubt that you'd beat any man walking God's green earth because you're the bad guy. And you're undefeated, undisputed, only guy that can walk this earth and know that no man alive can touch him.
He's Daniel Cormier, I'm Chael Sonnen, and this is Good Guy, Bad Guy. Welcome, everybody. DC, you got something, you look like you got something on your mind.
So, like, I was just fighting with a piece of lint on my shirt. Nothing ruins a black shirt more than, like, a piece of lint, especially when it's like you're looking in the camera, you see it, but you can't find it with your finger. Does that ever happen to you, or is your clothes just so pristine that lint doesn't even touch your black shirts?
That is one thing that Miss Brittany would check for in the morning. Like if she took a shirt out and thought that it needed iron, but then she would check it for lint. And there's a tape system. There's like, you like to roll this tape around your hand. You go right there. But you had a big fight with lint. Who won? I mean, it looks like you came out on top. I don't see the lint.
It literally went off like 3 seconds before the show started. I finally was able to piece together where my hand needed to go to get it done. Chill.
Daniel, are you aware that I got a fight of my own on my hands? Are you going to get to that? You realize I got to take Greg Jones on Sunday?
Wait, stop. We will discuss all of that in the end because guess what? I was able to negotiate, Chael, and I'm pretty sure you negotiated a fat paycheck, but I was able to negotiate us having just free time. At the end of the show, we have free time. Before we would get like, these guys are currently off topic. We didn't tell them to talk about this. We have time now. So we got some free time at the end, but first.
Come back to it.
We gotta go back into something first. We gotta go backwards.
Team me up. Team me up, as the kids say in television.
8 years ago, Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather in the money fight. Do you remember that? Do you remember like how it came together and how unbelievable it was that Conor McGregor, an amateur boxer, was going to get to fight Floyd Money Mayweather?
It was awesome. They did a world tour. 4 different cities. They were in LA. They were in Canada somewhere. I mean, they moved this all around the world. 4 different cities, midday. One of them, the one in LA, was on a Wednesday at like noon. I mean, the most inopportune times. They sold it out.
Every time.
17,000 people came to listen to 2 guys talk about fighting where there was no chance that a fight was going to break out. That thing was so massive at the time. That thing was built and promoted. It was fun. Did it make a lot of sense in the rankings? Man, every now and then it doesn't have to. We had fun. And by the way, Conor McGregor, who had never done this before, went 30 minutes with the greatest of all time. That was a very impressive thing to see him do.
Absolutely. And Chael, I've seen Dana White smile, obviously, when he made things happen. I don't know that I ever saw him smile more than when he was on that press tour with Conor McGregor. Because I bet he was looking at this guy like, I cannot believe this is the same kid that we took off of a plumbing business in Ireland to where he is today. Because he did not look lost for a moment next to Floyd Mayweather, who had danced that dance so many times. And Mayweather being one of the greatest boxers of all time, you kind of expected him just to starch Conor. He did not do that. Like you said, Conor went 30 minutes with him. Mayweather won by 10th round TKO, but Mayweather went 50 and over the course of his career. Chael, when this fight did go down, though, I was in Hawaii. I had my phone next to the table because the betting lines were just ridiculous. Dude, you could have, I think you could have got Conor McGregor to make the bell at like, it was barely plus 100 or plus 200 that Conor would survive. Conor was never surviving. No matter how good he did, Floyd was going to finish him. So obviously anybody that had money or was willing to bet it, they did, and a lot of people got paid out. One guy, one person being the guy in Hawaii watching at the pig roast because he's like, Conor getting finished seems like the most likely scenario in this situation.
I'm sure the guy at the pig roast was waving that ticket around very proud. I got to tell you, Daniel, at one point, I love the odds. I had just started with ESPN. In fact, I was at Bristol, Connecticut. They sent me out, and I believe it's the first thing I ever spoke on within this entire company. The first time I ever said a word, and it had to do with Conor and Floyd, and it was the odds. And they opened at 11 to 1. They moved as far briefly to 14 to 1 for Mayweather, but they closed inside of 8 to 1. I mean, a lot of money started coming in on Conor. And Conor didn't show anything. He didn't beat anybody up. There wasn't like surface and video of how well he could box. That's how well he sold it. That's how well this press tour was. And Conor truly believed he could beat the man. He believed that he was bigger, that his left hand was going to be a problem, and that overall he could just push Floyd around. That if he had to cheat, had to grab him, had to push him. And Conor got a lot of people to believe that. And it got proven when they bet on him.
Well, I mean, think about this, though, right? The opening odds show, as you said, were minus 2,500 Mayweather, plus 1,100 Conor. The line closed at minus 375 Mayweather, plus 285 Conor McGregor. Can you believe, like you said, Conor was able to sell that so well that people bet him down to plus 285 from plus 1,000, 1,100. It's a crazy stat. And that spoke to who Conor McGregor was at the time of that fight. But, Chael, money. Money could be, since you're a kid, they tell you that money is the root of all evil. Remember when they would tell you that? I know now that they told me that because we had none of it. So it was like, if you tell them it's evil, they don't realize that how much it benefits you. But now, I don't want to live without money. But Chael, Conor McGregor made a reported $130 million in that fight. Floyd made a reported $280 million in that fight. Chael, can we look back to that? And can we point to that as the time or the moment that we officially lost Conor McGregor?
Yes, I believe that we could. And we had some fun. I'm all for these numbers as well. I was in the venue that night and it was not sold out. I mean, just to let you know, there's nothing that's been a pay-per-view hit, never nothing where your live focus group isn't completely sold out. So the business of that was greatly lied about. And if I could just make a final example, Floyd got paid 280 and Conor got paid 140, and they made sure that we all knew that, and the media knew that, and the athletes backed. I mean, this was big deals, and they were going to use this for press. To this day, they've never told us, Daniel, who signed the front of that check. Whoever the player is that came in and had a bank account with $500 million, found a way to not get his name out there. Look, they didn't get that kind of money. But did they get good money? Yeah. Did they make walkaway money? Yeah. And it was a massive opportunity because the UFC had the right to Conor. And they had the right to participate in that, but they decided to do a carve out and let Conor go. And what could have been? What could have been is what we could only guess about. If Conor had hung in there, those 3 more bells, right? He ends up stopped in the 10th, and then you get the 11th and the 12th. If that would have gone to a decision, what if it would have gone Conor's way? I'm just sharing for you. Dana loved it to the point, the smile, how much fun he had. I don't think that he would have been opposed to waiting till he had the right matchup, but sending another one of his guys to do the same thing. When the script ended up going against us, I think that brought that great time to a halt. But in the idea of what could have been, I think that's a fun fantasy.
You know, so when we think about that, right, and like you said, what could have been, well, what happened was it ultimately ended Conor McGregor. So while the UFC did enjoy the process of putting their biggest star out there in front of the world, and people go, wow, this guy, Conor McGregor, I want to go back and watch him competitively, he never was the same, Chael, because boxing is hard. You're taking just unbelievable damage over a long period of time because the gloves are too big, so you can take more damage, and you're getting beat on by one of the greatest boxers of all time. He never came back as the same guy, Chael. So ultimately, he beat Cowboy Cerrone. That was it, after he fought Floyd. Ultimately, Chael, did it hurt the UFC? Because we lost our biggest star. We lost our biggest star and our biggest attraction when Conor McGregor got beat by Floyd. But, I mean, honestly, it's kind of a bad question considering the UFC seems to be in a better place than it's ever been in the history of the company. But in the meantime, it hurt. Right after Conor lost.
I fully get your point, and I think that that's really just open for discussion. I know that there's a definitive answer. We are aware that it's very hard for a rich man to fight, and Oscar De La Hoya disproved that, and Floyd kind of disproved that, but Conor helped to prove that. It was very hard. Where's my motivation? Where do I go now? Yeah. There's also spots of your life, Daniel, and it can come from success, but not even financial success. Athletic performance. There's something where you could go out and you have your best performance, and then you get satisfied. You say, you know what? I like that. I like the community. I like being part of it. but I'm not as hungry to do that anymore. I've got what I wanted. I have this once in a lifetime moment. I went 30 minutes with a guy in a sport that I've never done before. Or you get lost as well and go, well, I've just proven that I've got the best hands. I don't even need to work my hands anymore. I'm the only guy that could go 30 minutes with Floyd. I'm going to spend the rest of my time on jiu-jitsu. That's a real thing too. There's a very real thing when you have a level of success to come down. I would use as a recent example, Francis Ngannou. But he goes out and what many believed and should have been the world champion, the next time he gets in the ring, he falls down 4 times in 3 minutes. Well, if you start to believe or be satisfied with what you already did, and that doesn't just have to be financial. I get that that's a part of it, and that probably is tie in pretty well to McGregor, but there was also an achievement. There was an accomplishment. Yeah. There was a breaking through. There was a co-promote. Do you know how little Dana White wants to work with Stephen Espinosa? But he did it anyway. They found a way to get these 2 Vegas juggernauts, Money May Team, UFC, to operate together. And there was such an achievement that in many ways, I think Conor could look at that and go, I can never return to that. So what is my goal now?
Yeah, absolutely. Conor McGregor, for all that he was, all the bravado, the brash attitude, the catchy lines, he was a winner. When he started, he was a winner. And he made moments that matter, right? The double champ does whatever he wants. I'd like to apologize to who, Conor? Absolutely nobody. Like, those things will live forever. But he only was able to do those things because he was so good at the time. And I think when you've reached those peaks in your career, you come back to a world where you can't, because Khabib beat him after. Then Dustin Poirier beat him twice after. So it wasn't the same landscape that he returned to after he had fought Floyd Mayweather. So yeah, the money made it hard to come back and be who you thought you were before. But also the competition level had changed, and he found it much more difficult to find the success that he had found on his run to becoming such a massive star and a guy that could really set himself up to fight someone like Floyd.
And you know, those 3 matches that you mentioned is actually what led me to conclude earlier when I said that I don't think Conor worked on his striking. I think he thought that was complete. If you remember the big spot in the Khabib fight is when Khabib caught him and put him down. Dustin outstruck him the next 2 fights badly. And so I think that there was a little bit of a buy-in and maybe a little bit of a false, right? They're very different sports now. If you put the big gloves on, just that, it's very different than the way that you may defend in MMA, where you got to have those things up. I mean, it just really is a different sport. The science is very sweet. It's not what he does first and foremost, but for that night and that moment of time, it was awesome. By the way, I was there in the building that night, and they had a problem. You could order it through Fight Pass, and you could order it from all your cable subscribers. So many people ordered it, shut Fight Pass down. Dana had to quit all interviews to go get an office. They had to delay this thing like 2 hours just so people could get it sorted and buy in. So when you're in the building, you don't really know what's happening. In 2 hours, I mean, that's a long time to sit and you're wondering what's happening. And they never tell us. They never give us a heads up. Boom. Building goes dark. Tron comes on. Conor's making his walk. It was so effing awesome. I mean, it made those 2 hours that you're sitting there, you know, I go with my mom, I got Teddy at, listen, we're trying to think of things to talk about. It was so long to wait, and they gave no warning. All right, we've got it situated. We'll be with you in 1 minute. They just started that thing. And when they started, we all thought it was a promo. We couldn't believe, no, wait a minute. He's actually coming to this ring. And it made for a very cool moment, I got to tell you.
I can only imagine. So, Chael, when you think about that boxer versus MMA fighter, if there is a dream matchup that you could have made, who would it be? Which boxer would you put in there with the MMA fighter? And which MMA fighter would it be?
Francis and Tyson Fury ended up reluctantly, begrudgingly, and surprisingly to me to be one of the most remarkable sporting events that I had ever seen. I did not believe that that was true. I didn't believe it was true that a non-boxer, I didn't believe it the night that Conor did it. And Conor was like 8 pounds more than Floyd, and the boxing community made this huge deal about those 8 pounds because they were so tormented at what they saw too. Floyd,
they were scared that he was going to win. They were scared. They were like, yo, we got to be careful with this guy.
When I saw Francis, I really thought there was something interesting there. There was brief discussion of Kamaru Usman and Canelo. I don't suggest that that was going to go anywhere, but I'm just giving you a background. When you asked me fights I wanted to see, one that almost got done was De La Hoya versus St. Pierre. And while that may not be the biggest fight I could have just offered you, you asked me to personalize it, and that one I was very interested in seeing.
You know which one I wanted to see? Roy Jones Jr. when he was in his prime versus Anderson Silva. Because, Chael, I was in Philadelphia when Anderson beat Forrest Griffin. And when I was leaving to go home, guess who I ran into at the airport? Roy Jones. Roy Jones was there to try and goad Anderson into fighting him. That's how big of a deal Anderson Silva was at the time. That people were like, yo, this guy is so good, we think he can fight Roy Jones. And do you remember how the world viewed Roy Jones as a boxer? He was the second coming of everyone. He was the best until he wasn't. But for that moment, when he was in Philly trying to fight Anderson, he was the number one pound guy in the world, and he was looking to fight an MMA guy. And I'll never forget that. And I think that would be the fight that I would run back in their prime if I had to.
If you remember the seats that he had that night, you couldn't buy them. Those were a gift from Dana, which meant Dana liked that idea, at least to a degree, to put Roy on his cameras. So you're right. There was bigger legs to that than we were led to believe.
Yeah, we were behind the scenes. We did, hey, today we might know what's going on. Back in 2009, we never were getting the memo. We were just on the outside looking in like everybody else. Chill. You know what I have not been on the outside looking in of? The Contender series. I worked the first 3 weeks of Contender this season. Dude, first week, terrible. It was not fun. Dana panned it. I panned it. It was awful. Second week, 5 fights, 5 contracts awarded. Even one by decision because the guy looked so good. Last night, 5 fights, 5 contracts, 5 finishes, 4 in the very first round. Chill. What makes this show so fun? I mean, 9 finishes in the last 10 fights.
Contender Series has turned out to possibly be the most fun and the best product that we have. I like that they get to the point. There's an evil side, Daniel. There's an evil side to somebody where you're not watching at the end to see who gets the contract. You're watching at the end to see who does not get the contract. But that is so compelling when that happens. And those guys very quietly, but they go into a different category. The UFC and Mick and Sean are watching those guys that won and didn't get the contract. And they have a way of
they're right on the verge.
Sure everybody gets rewarded. But it's a very special event, and I love how they get right to the point. I love the lack of the glamour, the lack of the show. Having been there, they used to do the Ultimate Fighter in this building, so I've been to that building to know what it's like, in a back that's silent, to walk out without music, to have maybe your mom, if you were able to get a ticket for her and she's screaming, and it's just a very interesting. It's a very raw. And I do think that Dana's initial question still lives on today. How bad do you want to be a fighter? And the guys that go through Contenders, Ultimate Fighter would also get this category. They've answered the question. And it's not just something they said, I'll do anything. That is showing that you will do anything, because that's a very unique and difficult situation to find yourself in. A fist fight against a guy you don't have a problem with on a Tuesday is a rare situation.
Chael, they call it the most intense job interview of all time. And it really is. You know, watching these guys, knowing that you have to fight a certain way on the Contender Series, tells you like how badly these guys want to be there, because you're not going in there to just lay on someone and hold them and just win, Chael. Like I did at times, you did at times. We were trying to get a dub. You go out there and just get a dub, you get panned. You may fall farther back by going out and just getting a win, opposed to going out there and fighting like these guys have been doing lately. And it's just been an amazing to watch just the way that these fighters have separated themselves recently on the Contender Series. And not only are the guys coming through the Contender Series, but they're becoming champions. I mean, Jamal Hill was a champ. Sean O'Malley was a champ. Some of the best fighters in the world today are still guys and gals that came off of the Contender Series. I always find it interesting.
I believe Izzy came through Contenders.
Adesanya?
Yes.
No. Jack Della Maddalena did. Jack Della did also. But, Chael.
Right.
Can you imagine sitting in a room? Dana goes, how about this, guys? We do 100 fighters, 10 weeks, 5 fights every week on a Tuesday, and we're going to like fight and you get a contract. Like just the idea, right? Like it's such a weird idea because now a Tuesday night in Las Vegas, Chael, you can get a ticket for $250 round trip to Vegas because nobody's there on Tuesdays. But in the Apex, it's always full. And people are just truly showing out. Some of the people that have shown out, though, Chael, are Chechen fighters. Obviously, Khamzat Chimaev is the middleweight champion now after what he did in Chicago. A couple weeks ago, Baysangar Susakayev was able to win on the Contender Series. 4 days later, fight in Chicago and win again. And then Chael, last night, there was a kid called Yakiyayev that knocked out his opponent, left Dana speechless. Chael, we always knew that once those guys from that region came, because in wrestling we all struggled with them, they would become an issue. But is it now that time where it's the rise of the Chechen fighter, as we saw with Dagestan a few years ago?
Yes. I remember warning, like if you want to call it a warning, maybe it was a prediction, but I said,
it was a warning.
If you want to have a whole bunch of Russian champions, be careful who you're signing because there is going to be a Russian invasion. You don't understand. These guys play differently. Their idea of toughness. You know, when you're growing up and you just don't have hot water, that might sound like a small deal. But when it's freezing outside and you've got a hose over you, I mean, you're a different kind of person. When you want something to eat and you've got to go to that field and find it for supper that night, or you got to go in and try to catch it. I mean, it's just a different kind of deal. When your mother is making your brother clothes and he eventually passes them down to you, and who gets to wear the shoes today, like. It's just a different deal. Daniel, I do not maintain that area of the world has special training, secret techniques, or better coaches. What that area of the world does not have is an NBA, an NFL, a National Hockey League, a Professional Baseball Association. The top athletes go into combat in that one part of the world. Sambo, judo, freestyle, Greco-Roman, and now MMA. Largely, those 5 sports are actually under the same roof. At 8 a.m. is your Sambo practice. At 10 is when judo class is going to be. As they get a little bit older, the coaches identify, we're going to grab you and you, you're military bound, you and you're Olympic bound, you guys. Report to Coach Nurmagomedov every day at 5. You're going to bring honor to the region, to the UFC. Like, that's what I argue. I don't think that they have those secrets, and I don't think if we were to grab their coaches and bring them over here that they're going to get necessarily the same product. The right DNA in our country has a lot of options. The right DNA, the right athlete in their area has one.
I was watching something, I don't know if it was Islam or Khabib. I think it was Islam that said something to the effect of the reason the American champion is struggling now is because of these options. Because everything doesn't rest on you being the champ. He said while they recognize that the whole family and their livelihood really does live and die with what they do inside of an octagon or in their fight career. So the American champion is one of on the verge of extinction in fighting right now. Only Kayla Harrison is the only American-born champion we have right now, Chael. You have Chimaev, Ankalaev, Marab, Pantoja, Della Maddalena, Aspinall, Volkanovski, Topuria, Weili, and Shevchenko. There is no Americans. Is it done? Like, are we done? Or like, is there just going to be a swing of the next group of guys that's going to fight their way back to the top of the sport?
Well, we've got some real potential in the barn. I am not ready to count Bo Nickel, no matter how big of a surprise that was that he's got beat. I'm not ready to disqualify him from future championship hopes. I am wide open to the idea of Gable Steveson. We do have Kayla. I think that we've got a lot of the right bodies, but Daniel, the number one feeder to the UFC for Americans used to be
wrestling.
USAW and the NCAA. There is not one world team or Olympic member, aside from Cejudo, even under contract in the heavyweight class specifically, which has been dominated. Whether you want to go to Randleman, Mark Kerr, Mark Coleman, Randy Couture, as they pass that whole thing, there is not one NCAA All-American, not just in the top 10. There is not a single one under contract. In fact, the most decorated wrestler in the heavyweight class is John Jones. and the junior college national champion that he obtained. And I'm just sharing, we're not getting all of our right guys. Now, there's some reason behind that, and wrestling has changed. There's a
They're
new
paying
funding
money now.
program where David Taylor, who planned to come over, ended up not. Kyle Dake, who planned to come over, ended up committing to the 2028 Olympics. I'm just sharing for you. I don't know that the day of the American is done. I think we've got a lot of options. I read the interview you're talking about. It was Islam, and he went a little bit further to say, our city is behind it. Our region is behind it. They are behind us. We can bring them disappointment, or we can bring them honor. And he said that has never been an incentive or a weapon that the Americans have had on their side. And he's right. We could have an American versus someone not from America. We could hold it in North America, and the American would get booed. Nowhere else in the world would you boo your own countrymen, but they'll do it here. And his point is very fair. I can't relate to it in the least of having friends and neighbors in a region whose good day versus sad day is predicated on the outcome of my sporting event. And I imagine from a fantasy standpoint, that's an incredible motivation. I had never thought about that. That's something very special.
Very hard to deal with. Very, very difficult to deal with. But that was part of the reason I wanted to start this fight team, because I want American wrestlers to try to see if we can help to show what it took for me to get to the top of the sport and try to impart that into the guy. Because the one thing I know about the American wrestler is he's not afraid of wrestling. He's not afraid of, not afraid of training. He's not afraid of commitment. He doesn't not have focus. He's going to do everything I ask him to do to ultimately get back. So no, the American fighter is not dead at the top of MMA. We're going to come back. It's what we do. And I believe there will be UFC champions that are Americans again. But Chael, that was part of the reason I started the fight team with the Contender Series. Yo, I've got 3 guys fighting Contender Series this year in my gym. One next week, Eduardo Chapolin. You remember Chapolin?
I know Chapolin.
Yep.
Stud.
Then Emmanuel Rodriguez fights in October, and Tommy Gant fights on September 16th, 3-time NCAA All-American at NC State. So, yeah, bro, we're grinding, we're rocking and rolling, and we're going to keep building this thing. But, Chael, Craig Jones was supposed to wrestle or grapple Gable Steveson. I saw you, call him out. You told me Gable turned away $1 million to grapple Craig Jones. 1, Gable's really rich. 2, seems like there's an opportunity in there for you to make $1 million. Are you fighting Craig Jones this weekend, Joe?
I got to tell you, we have not talked money, and I would be the first to come and brag it for you. I don't know what that is, but when I got the phone call, I thought I was being offered the match. It was Christian Pyle called. I answer him right here in the studio, and I have to disclose to him, hey, what's being said is recorded. He's like, well, hey, I'm doing the same thing to you. In fact, we're live right now. Gable pulled out. Would you take on Craig Jones? I said yes. I thought I then had the match, but then later was told that I misinterpreted, that it wasn't an offer. It was a feeling out process. Would you be one to take the match? Now, I got to tell you, I didn't really love that position. I thought that was a little bit rude. Like, if you're telling me that you have me as an option, but you're also telling me
you're going to go try to find something better.
First, yeah, that you're trying to find something better. I mean, it does kind of change things. And don't forget, it's not as though I wanted to go grapple Craig Jones or get that one back, or I had this dream of one more. It was none of those things. I got challenged. I have an ego. It is anyone, anytime, under any rules until the day I leave this earth. But Daniel, that doesn't mean I don't have my fingers crossed, hoping nobody ever calls me out. I don't want to have to live that code. Like, I can understand the things that come with taking on the single greatest grappler alive. But either way, the question was answered, and I said yes. And I'd like to make this point to you. In MMA, maybe this isn't true, but you and I grew up as wrestlers. And if there was a match, and that match is supposed to happen, and one side doesn't show up, that's a forfeit. And we may not do that in MMA, and you might not do it in football, but in the world of grappling, that's very common. Craig challenged me. Craig offered me a match. I accepted. He didn't have to show. But if he doesn't, I win. And I really do mean that. That's not a joke. He's beat me once.
I want my money.
It's 1-1. It's 1-1. And right now you might think, so what? 5 years from now, when all you see the record that Chael beat Craig Jones, I want that record. And I believe by accepting it, I've earned it.
Chael, last night I was at the Contender Series, and there were a couple guys that started getting hit, and it's like they just didn't fight back. Bro, is it crazy that you go there knowing you have one chance, right? One chance to get it done and earn a contract, even in losing. you can possibly get another opportunity. Because last week a guy got just beat on. And Dana goes, you're so tough that the first time I get a chance at a late notice placement, I'm getting you in. But what about when you just cower down and you just turn? These guys don't fight back. Like, you have to know why you're there. That's not an option, is it? You got to do something.
Fight or flight. It's one of the most basic rules of psychology, but every person has it, and nobody really knows how they're going to respond in that moment until they find themselves in that moment.
Yep.
There is parts of you that wants to fight back, but then you've got this flight, and the flight's telling you, if I just
Protect
stay
yourself
here for maybe 2 more shots, my tag team partner, known as the referee, will step in, and we go, oh, I got put in a bad position. Like, your mind will just do those tricks on you, and that's where the real battle is. That's where you can't let, when that door opens, you got to scramble. You got to get to an underhook. You got to say, okay, let me get up one more time. If I get back there again, we can fly, but let's just get up one more time. And as long as you can keep playing that deal with yourself, which is, I'm going to scramble through this position, I'll let him have the next one. I'm going to get through this round, I'll let him have the next. If you could just keep doing that, eventually time will run out. You could even go on to be a champion. But everybody, winners and losers, fight versus flight. They will get presented with that all night. And that's the one they've got in this business. You got to learn to ignore.
Yeah, you got to ignore it, and you got to not, you can't run. Like, you just can't run. One time there was a gal in the octagon, me and Dominic Cruz watched her, and she ran away. She ran, she literally turned, and she ran away from her opponent. Dom goes, I said, oh my God, she's running. Dom goes, she ran. She like ran across the octagon away from her opponent, dude. I put my mute button on because I was laughing so hard. I had never seen anything like that in my entire life. It was the most absurd thing in the world for you to actually choose at that point that running is going to be the thing that you do. You can't run.
I saw the match. And by the way, and this is just for the record, I am standing by my assertion earlier that Israel Adesanya stopped off at Contender
He
Series.
didn't.
I remember Michael Bisping calling his fight. And I remember Michael then getting shot. How would you do with this guy? Now, maybe they fought at an Apex and Bisping hit. That could be possible. But they're in the small room. Bisping called it. It was close, and it's right before Izzy broke out. So just so you know, I'm not backing down from that. Now, there's no way to know. There's no way to know for sure.
There is a way to know.
It's impossible. It is impossible to be certain. I wish there was a way. If there's a way and we could just check it, we could do it and be done with it. There's no way to know for sure, but I am standing by Izzy and Contenders.
Chill.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
I guess.
Unprovable.
Okay. I guess we'll never know. Chill. So the referees, right? Sometimes the referees get it pretty bad. Like, is Dom being fair? Do you think Dom's being fair when he's on the refs like that, Chill? I know you got to work with him, but is Dom being fair? I just want to know. And for the record, before we get into this, Dom today is so much nicer. Bro, he retired and he doesn't have that chip of fighting anymore. He's a pleasure to work with. It was great working with him last time. But is he being fair? Because sometimes, dude, Dom be saying some crazy stuff about referees, Jill.
What does fair mean? I mean, is Dom critical? Yeah. Does Dom have no fear in calling things out? Yeah, that's for sure. I'll just tell you, man, that referee's job is such a difficult one. Daniel, I don't know if you've ever tried it. If I did it just in amateur wrestling, and I put the blue on and I put the red on, and I got to call out the scores, and the people are coming at you, and the action has happened so fast, and you got a timekeeper, you got to keep track, and then if there's an argument, you got to remember a scenario back from 20 seconds earlier when you're arguing with the coaches. I left with a different level of respect for the referees. And are they perfect people? No. Is Dom critical? Yeah, sure he is. Is he wrong? I suppose we'd have to take that case by case.
You know, I went to see Ben Askren when I was in Chicago. Ben is on the porch because, you know, obviously he had all the issues with his health. He gets up the moment he sees me. First off, Joe, I won't go close to him because I'm scared. I don't want to get him sick. I want to make sure he's okay. Ben Askren is getting up as we're on the porch. I'm telling Ben, just relax, calm down. Because Chill, if you're an alpha, another alpha walks into the room, you get up. You want to show, I'm that guy still. Dude, we played disc golf. Disc golf. I'm like, Ben, you can't even Ben, you can't walk. You can't do disc golf. He goes, I'll beat you in this state. Did you happen to see that video?
I saw
Ben
it.
rolls the disc golf down the hill. His wife goes, that's cheating. That's cheating. I go, wait, what? I threw 10 to try to beat him, Chael. Never could beat him. And then that's when I realized Ben Askren's in there, right? Don't matter what he looks like on the outside. Ben Askren's still in there, and he's still, when he goes to the bathroom, it's still vinegar. He's still hot, right? He's still pissing hot. He's the man. He's still in there, Chael. That's awesome to me to watch a guy that is having so many difficult times, but still be so clear in his mind. Because no matter what the shell looks like, right? This is our vessel. The body's the vessel. Doesn't matter what the vessel looks like. Inside is what makes you the champion.
And he focused on the positive, right? He focused on the positive, which is, I know the course better than DC. I have more experience than DC. I can beat him. Let's play. No, I watched that whole thing, and so much that you need to know about Ben, the character, and who he really is. Right in that little theatrical clip, you really do get some insight to it. I loved that he still wanted to play you. I love that he was willing to do what he had to do to get the win.
His wife goes, only you could get Ben to sit up and start trying to do too much. I go, absolutely, because he knows I've been trying to kick his butt since 2007. We were on the world team together, so he ain't trying to lose to me. Hey, Chael, I think that's probably it, man. Like, you know what's crazy? When we go off topic, it's cool. I just don't know if it's as fun, if they're not like scolding us to get back on topic. There could be something as too much freedom. But you didn't ask me anything. Is there anything you want to ask me?
I had a great time. I will tell you, I was expecting, I assumed when I told you I'm stepping in for Gable that you would have told me what's in your heart, which is, first off, that's a big step up for Craig Jones. Gable, who's never done it, versus the man with the biggest arms. Could you imagine the step up? Last time I saw Gable Stevenson, I put him in a headlock and I gave him a noogie right after I signed a photograph and patted him to go out because the line was getting licked. All of a sudden, he's pulling out to something. I'm stepping in. He's got something called turf toe. You can have my toes or give me turf toe or just cut the toe. What difference does it make? And finally, I was kind of thinking you'd say, hey, you're too big for Craig. Hold him down, put him in the box. Craig Jones has a very small chance of beating me in his own event, but I kind of thought that you would be the one to say that to me.
I probably should have.
Unless, of course, you don't think I can beat Craig Jones.
Chael, I don't doubt that you'd beat any man walking God's green earth because you're the bad guy. And you're undefeated, undisputed, only guy that can walk this earth and know that no man alive can touch him. That's my boy, Chael Sonnen, right there. Guys, for Chael Sonnen, I just polished him up a little bit. For Chael Sonnen, I'm Daniel Cormier. No show on Monday. We will see you guys on Thursday. Until next time, peace.